Double the memory, double the disk size for only $400 more at $23.99. Third model, dual 2 gigahertz, Radeon 9600, $29.99. Now, these are the models we're going to have on the channel. Of course, you can go to the website and configure anything you want. So what's the competitive landscape like? Well, obviously we turned to Dell, right? They're the low-cost provider in the PC space, and we configured a system that isn't even as fast as the one that we have here for $29.99. Dual 3 gigahertz Xeon systems, 533 megahertz bus, the fastest PC money can buy. Same amount of memory, not quite as much disk, something that's not quite as good as a super drive, but we got as close as we could. And what do you think it cost? You can go do this today on Dell's website. Over $4,000. So from now on, anyone who tells you that Apple's high-end machines are more expensive than PCs, you can tell them where to look. The new Power Mac G5s, we're going to ship them in August. All 3 models. And that is the product with the system and the chip. So what kind of performance are we getting out of this thing? Well, I'm pleased to report that this is the world's fastest personal computer. Now let's prove that. To prove that, there's 2 places to turn. One is analytic tests, and the most respected tests in the world are called spec tests. And second is real-world applications. So let's start off looking at spec tests. We're going to compare 3 systems with 3 chips in them. Number 1, 2 gigahertz G5 with a 1 gigahertz bus. Second, a 3.0 gigahertz Pentium 4 with an 800 megahertz bus, the fastest we can get our hands on, the fastest you can buy. And a 3.06 gigahertz Xeon processor, again, the fastest Xeon you can buy. And we're going to compare them in spec tests. These are industry standard tests run on these machines. We're going to use GCC 3.3 because we want to use an open source compiler that's the same compiler on all machines, and the compiler we all use, by the way. And there's a lot of test houses that help verify these things, and we hired one of the best, Veritest, to do independent tests and provide independent test results. So first we're going to start off with single processor tests. And there's three systems we want to test. One with a single P4, one with a single Xeon, and one with a single G5. And let's see how they did in 2 tests. One that measures integer performance, spec int 2000, and one that measures floating point performance, spec FP 2000. Well, the P4 scored 889 on integer, 836 on integer for the Xeon, and the G5 scored 800. Not quite as high, single processor integer. Let's see how we did on floating point. 693 for the P4, 646 for the Xeon, 840 for the G5. So we are 10% slower on integer and 21% faster on floating point. I think we can safely say that we basically caught up with a single processor system, the fastest you can buy. But now let's look at dual processor, because this is the heavyweight championship. This is what determines the fastest computer in the world, because a dual Xeon system beats a single P4 system. And you can't put 2 P4s together. Intel limits you from doing that, so you buy Xeons, right? So this is what's going to determine what is the fastest computer in the world. Now we're going to put a single P4 up for reference here. Again, you can't hook 2 P4s together in a system. And we're going to take a look at spec tests for dual processor system. They're called rate tests. Spec int rate and spec floating point rate. Again, on integer. Single P4, 10.3 on the spec rate test. Dual Xeon, you can see the benefit now of adding that second processor, 16.7. Dual G5, 17.2. We edge them out on integer. Now let's go to floating point. 8.1 for the single Pentium, 11.1 for the dual Xeon, 15.7 for the dual G5. We are 3% faster on integer and a whopping 41% faster on floating point than the dual Xeon machines. And we can now clearly say that the new PowerMac G5 is the world's fastest personal computer. Now that's spec tests. What about real-world apps? Well, let us show you a few. Because today we're going to have a dual. Dual G5s versus dual Xeons. The fastest PC money can buy, a 3.06 gigahertz dual Xeon machine compared with a dual G5 PowerMac G5. First up, it's my pleasure to welcome from Adobe, Greg Gilley, who's the Vice President of Engineering. Greg, welcome.
Thanks, Steve. So Adobe's been working very closely with Apple over the past couple of months to tune our app's performance for the new G5, and we've been pretty impressed. So on some areas of Photoshop, we have seen performance that's more than double any of the other machines that we've ever seen. The memory bandwidth on this machine is absolutely amazing. Even one of my most skeptical engineers got really excited about this box. He's sitting down here laughing. So we're going to release an update, a performance update for Photoshop around the same time these machines ship. We're convinced that our customers are going to love this box. And if you've been waiting to switch your Macs to Mac OS X, here's the perfect opportunity to pick up a hot box and make this switch. We've also been working with Apple on performance on Mac OS X, and it's just going to keep getting better. So one more thing. I know I have a bunch of engineers out there who are seeing this box for the first time, and I know you're drooling. And the good news is, at these prices, you're likely to get one. So, thank you.
Now, I'd like to invite Phil Schiller up, our Senior Vice President for Worldwide Product Marketing, back from the bookcase.
The library.
And so, Phil, what are we going to do today here?
Oh, I've been dying to do this for so long. Up on the screen, on the left-hand side, you see a brand new PowerMac G5 dual 2 gigahertz screaming machine. On the right, we have a Dell, the fastest money can buy PC, dual 3.0 Xeons.
3.06.
3.06 Pentium 4, 3.0 for the Xeons. And I had to break the bank to buy one, but I got the approval to do so. And we're going to do a head-to-head test, a real-world application test using Adobe Photoshop. As many of you know, it runs both on Mac and Windows. And one of the great things about Photoshop is not only can you copy the same files and run it on both machines, you can run a list of actions that the artists actually did to create their documents and see how they run side by side.
And so we've got, again, dual G5s running at 2 gigahertz and dual Xeons running at 3.06. Now we're going to use a document that's one of my favorite. It's actually a real poster that was done. This is the international poster for Finding Nemo. And it's actually been, we got it from the artist that did it. It's been printed and it's in hundreds of countries, well, dozens of countries around the world. So,
okay.
Ready?
You want to count us down?
Great. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so we're opening up this file. It's over 360 megabytes. It has over 100 actions that the artist did to create this movie poster. It does things like transforms, dissolves, Gaussian blurs, lighting effects, compositing, and the PC is not hung, it's thinking really hard. We're continuing to scream along on the G5, getting real work done, and the artist working on the PC probably just went to get a latte. And there, the
Mac is done. Woo!